Valerie ran through the wild forest, her feet bleeding, her breath sharp and fast. Trees towered over her like giant guards. The night was cold, and the wind was loud with the cries of strange beasts. She didn't know where she was, only that. She had to keep moving. She had escaped. She didn't remember how long ago. Maybe 1 day, maybe 2. Slavers had chained her for months, treated her like cargo. They had taken everything, her home, her clothes, even her name. And she still had her will. She still had her life. And now they were hunting her again. The ground beneath her feet felt strange soft, then tight. Before she could step back, a wire snapped. A sudden jerk lifted her into the air. A trap. Her body flipped as a vine rope, tightened around her leg and yanked her upside down. Pain shot through her side as she hit a branch, then dangled. No, no, please no, she gasped. Twisting, she tried to reach up, but her hands were shaking. The world spun. Her leg burned. The rope dug deeper into her skin with every move. Above her, the sky was full of stars. Valerie stopped, struggling. Her chest rose and fell fast, and tears slipped down her cheeks. Was this how it would end? Hanging like meat in some forest trap, eaten by wild animals or found again by slavers? She looked up at the stars so bright, so far away. Please, she whispered, her voice trembling. If anything out there is listening, please, help me. I don't want to die like this. A shooting star crossed the sky. She closed her eyes. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. The cold crept into her bones. Her fingers went numb. Her long silver hair, dirty and tangled, hung like a curtain below her. The forest was quiet now, except for the soft rustle of leaves, then dash footsteps, not animal steps. Heavy, measured, slow. Valerie opened her eyes. Her body froze. Something was coming. She tried to twist, to look behind her. But the rope had her trapped. The footsteps stopped. She held her breath. A shadow stepped into the moonlight. A man tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in dark, simple clothes. A rough cloth covered his lower face. His eyes glowed faintly blue in the dark. He looked human, but different. Worn? Dangerous? Valerie gasped. Asked. People don't hurt me. The man said nothing. He moved closer. Quiet, Tom. Valerie trembled. I didn't mean to. This isn't your trap. I'm not a thief. I'm just he. Didn't speak. He knelt and looked at the trap rope tied to the tree. His hands were fast, skilled. In seconds, the rope loosened. And she dropped, but he caught her mid-fall. Valerie winced in pain as her leg twisted. He didn't say a word, just picked her up like she weighed nothing and began walking. She stared up at him. Why? Are you helping me? Still no answer. He carried her deeper into the trees, his steps sure and strong. Her head rested against his chest. She could feel his heart beating steady, calm, alive. They reached a rock wall. Cave mouth yawned open. He ducked inside and laid her down on a flat, warm surface near an old fire pit. He lit a fire with practiced hands. Flames flickered. Warmth filled the space. Valerie's eyes fluttered. You're human, aren't you? He finally spoke. His voice was low, rough. Yes, she stared. But they said humans were extinct. He looked at her, then back to the fire. They were wrong. Valerie's eyes closed from exhaustion. She felt safe for the first time in months, but also confused. Who was this man? Why was he here, in the middle of nowhere? Just before sleep took her, she whispered, What's your name? The man looked at her, his face hard but not unkind. Gray, he said. Then the fire crackled and silence fell again. Outside the cave, in the forest shadows, a red blinking light activated, tracking the alien blood trail. The signal had been found. But inside, the girl who had wished upon a star had been heard, and the footsteps that came to her were only the beginning. Valerie woke to the sound of crackling fire. Her body ached, her legs still throbbed, but something had changed. The warmth was real. For the first time in days, She wasn't cold. The cave was dim, lit only by the dancing orange flames. Smoke curled upward and slipped through a crack in the rocks above. She blinked. Eyes adjusting to the light, across from her sat the man, the human Gray. He stared into the fire, arms crossed, his back straight like a soldier waiting for orders. He hadn't moved all night. She wasn't sure if he had even slept. Lara sat up slowly, groaning. A thick cloth was wrapped tightly around her injured leg. Her skin had been cleaned. Someone had applied a healing salve, human-made. The scent told her that much. The pain was still there, but the bleeding had stopped. "You stayed," she said softly. Gray didn't look at her. "You needed help. Do you help every stranger you find hanging in the trees?" "Only the quiet ones," he replied. Valari gave a small smile, but it faded fast. Her eyes studied the cave. Simple, but lived in. A pack in the corner. Tools, gear, food wrappers. Not a campsite at home. "How long have you been here?" she asked. Gray finally turned toward her. His eyes were sharp, cold blue, too long. Valerie swallowed. Her fingers brushed the stone beneath her. Smooth. From use. She was sitting in the space of a ghost, a man who had disappeared from the world and buried himself in wilderness. "You're hiding," she said. Gray didn't answer. "You don't trust people." "No reason to." She hesitated, then asked the question that had been burning in her mind since last night. "Why save me?" He stared at her for a long moment. The fire popped between them, and he replied low and flat, "Because when I was bleeding in a hole, no one did." His words hit like a stone. Valari looked down, ashamed. She wanted to say something, but what could she say? That she was sorry for something she didn't do? That she understood what being forgotten felt like? Because she did. They sat in silence, two lost souls inside a quiet cave. While the dark forest whispered outside, hours passed. Valari tried to stand. Pain shot through her side. Gray was at her side in an instant. Didn't speak, didn't ask, just helped her sit again and placed a thick piece of dried meat in her hand. She sniffed it. "This isn't animal meat. Protein brick, long shelf life, still edible." She raised an eyebrow. "Human rations?" Gray looked at her. "You've seen them before?" Valari didn't answer. She just chewed, slow and careful. When she was done, she asked, "Where are the rest of you? Humans, I mean." Gray's jaw tightened. "They're gone." "Gone," he nodded. "War, betrayals, lies. We trusted the wrong allies. Earth fell silent years ago." Valari's hands went still in her lap. "I thought you were a myth," she whispered. Gray said nothing. Valari's voice dropped. "Some of our people told stories about human strength, about machines that bent stars, about soldiers who fought alone for weeks. But most thought they were just stories." Gray stood. They weren't stories. He walked to the mouth of the cave and peered out into the forest. The firelight made his figure look larger, more shadow than man. Valari struggled to her feet. "Wait, you hear something?" Gray raised a hand. Silence, then a hum, soft, mechanical. Gray's eyes narrowed. Drones. Valari's heart skipped. "They found me?" "No," Gray said. "They're not looking for you." He turned toward her, his voice suddenly sharper. "They're tracking me." Valari's stomach dropped. "But why? You're human. You're supposed to be dead." "Exactly," he said. "But they didn't finish the job." The hum grew louder. Gray grabbed a scanner from the pack. Faint red dot blinked on the screen, moving slowly toward their position. "You need to run," he told her. "I can't leave you," she said, limping. Gray met her eyes. For the first time, truly looking at her not as a stranger, but something else. "You made a wish on a star," he said. "Maybe I'm the answer." Stepped outside, and with one deep breath, the last living human soldier disappeared into the darkness toward whatever hunted him. Valari watched from the cave, clutching the wall for balance, her heart pounding outside. In the dark forest, red lights blinked in rhythm, but Gray was already moving. The fire was nothing but ash now. Valari sat alone in the cave, clutching a heated stone Gray had left behind. Her leg ached, her heart raced. She could still hear the hum of the drones in the distance, but they were fading. Either they had left or found him. She hated not knowing. What kind of man walks straight into danger without a word? She had known many species, some noble, some cruel, some liars, but none like this Gray who spoke little, moved like smoke, and carried more silence than any war could break. She forced herself to stand. Her leg trembled, but she would not sit and wait. She picked up the scanner Gray had dropped. Red blips small, scattered. They weren't tracking her. That meant something. But what? She limped outside the cave. The morning was gray. Cold mist hung low over the trees. The forest looked softer in the light, but it was only a mask. This world didn't forgive mistakes. Gray had just walked into its mouth. Valari didn't care what he was. Human, legend, ghost, he had saved her, and she wouldn't let him vanish. She followed the trail-broken branches, disturbed leaves, a crushed berry patch. Then she found it. A body. Her breath stopped. Not Gray. A drone, crushed flat. Its camera I had been ripped out and shoved into. The dirt, she crouched beside it. Blood dark and sticky stained its claw-like arm. Not Gray's. Alien. Then another shape moved above her. She froze. Gray stood in the trees. Arms crossed, his face like stone. "You shouldn't be here," he said. Valari turned slowly. "I came to help." He dropped something near her feet. A smooth, black chip drone memory core. They were scanning for old code. Not life forms. Old code. She asked. Gray turned and started walking back toward the cave. "They're looking for something they buried." She followed him. "You. Mean you." He didn't answer. Back at the cave, Gray opened a rusted metal box she hadn't seen before. Inside were patches symbols she didn't recognize, colors that had faded. A dog tag scratched and burned. Valari picked it up. .ltg, Rains Terran. Vanguard Unit 09. "You were military," she said softly. Gray nodded once. "A long time ago." "What happened?" He stared at the flames, quiet for a while. "They offered peace. We believed them. We lowered our weapons, and they came with chains instead." Valari sat beside him, her voice low. "My people, they served the Zovari Empire. They told us humans were extinct, that Earth was wiped out,
Ow.
that your kind were too wild to be tamed." Gray looked at her, not with hate, but something colder. "They couldn't tame us.
So they
Erased us, or tried to." She felt shame crawl up her neck. "I didn't know," she whispered. Gray poked the fire with a stick. "Now you do." She watched his face. There were scars, yes, but not just on his skin. His eyes were sharp, but there was pain behind them. Heavy pain. Carried for years. "You're not just hiding," she said. "You're running from what they did to you." He didn't answer. Valari leaned forward, her voice trembling. "I know what it means to be used, to be thrown away. Was just a translator once. But when I was no longer useful, they locked me in chains. They called me waste." Gray's eyes flicked to her. "I know what it feels like," she said. "To not be seen as a person, to just be a body." Silence stretched between them. Then, Gray said, "You speak too well for a translator." Valari smiled faintly. "I used to dream of being a scholar, a historian. But dreams don't matter when you're owned." Gray dropped the stick and stood. "You're free now, and you?" she asked. He paused. "I don't know what I am." She looked at him then, truly looked. Not as a rescuer, a myth, or human, but as someone broken, like her. "You're still fighting," she said. "That counts." He stared at her for a moment, then turned toward the cave wall. He touched a strange metal panel. It slid open with a hiss. Behind it, weapons, not simple ones, human weapons, old but powerful. One glowed faintly, humming with stored energy. Valari stood, stunned. "You're preparing for war?" "No," Gray said quietly. "War is already coming." She stepped closer. "What do we do?" He looked at her, finally meeting her eyes. You. Survive. And then the scanner beeped. Multiple red blips. Incoming fast. The drones had returned. But this time, they weren't scanning, they were locking on. Asterisk, the cave shook. Valari grabbed the rock wall to keep from falling as dust rained down from the ceiling. The fire blew sideways from the sudden pressure of the wind outside. The scanner screamed 6. Red dots, now 8, now 10, and they were coming fast. Gray didn't flinch. He was already moving, pulling weapons from the hidden panel, throwing a sidearm to Valari. It was heavy, old, but still powered. I've never fired a gun, she warned, her voice shaking. Gray didn't look back. Then aim low and squeeze slow. Outside, the trees swayed violently. A strange sound echoed through the Valinot machine, not beasts. It was a howl, metallic and long, followed by a sharp grinding that cut the air like a blade. Valari froze. That sound. It's not drones. Gray checked the charge on a heavy rifle. No, it's worse. She stepped beside him, her hands trembling on the gun.
Ow.
What is it? Something they built when bullets weren't enough, he said. A null beast. Synthetic hunter. Doesn't sleep. Doesn't stop. Her voice cracked. I thought those were myths. Gray glanced at her. It was I. A second later, the mouth of the cave lit up, red lights blinking. Dozens of them, cutting through the mist. And then it appeared. A tall creature stepped from the trees. It was part metal, part muscle, with cables running down its arms and eyes. That glowed like fire. Its legs bent backward like a hunter beast, but its face was flat, expressionless. No mouth, no soul. VLAR, I gasped. It's not just a machine. No, Gray said. It learns. The creature stepped closer. Valari raised her weapon with both hands, trying not to shake. The beast tilted its head, scanning her, but it didn't move forward. It was waiting. Suddenly a speaker inside the beast's chest crackled. A voice came through, not robotic, cold. Female, alien. Return the human. This is your only warning. Valari's heart raced. They're speaking through it. Gray stepped forward. Tell your masters to come. Themselves. The beast didn't answer. It raised an Armand pointed at Gray's chest. Then you will die first. The cave exploded into motion. Gray fired first, a blinding pulse that tore into the beast's shoulder. Sparks flew. Valari screamed and ducked, firing wildly. The beast moved fast, faster than any machine she'd ever seen. It slammed into the cave wall, knocking over gear. Lars scrambled to the back, pulling a charge pack. Gray ammo. He caught it midair, reloaded, and fired again. The shot hit dead center, but the beast didn't fall. Instead, it laughed. A dry, inhuman laugh from its voice speaker. Valari backed up. Why isn't it stopping? Gray gritted his teeth. Because they programmed it to enjoy pain. He reached for the panel again and yanked out something different around. Black capsule with a glowing blue core. Valari stared. Is that EMP mine? Close range only? But we'll be inside the blast, I know. Before she could protest. Gray charged. The null beast turned, but too late. Gray slammed the mine into its chest and rolled away. The world went white. The cave burst with energy. The beast convulsed, sparks flying from its back. Its limbs shook wildly, and then it collapsed. Twitching smoke filled the air. Valora coughed, crawling to Gray. He was flat on his back. Bleeding from the ear but breathing, she shook him. Hey, wake up. His eyes blinked open slowly. You. Alive? She asked. He nodded weakly. That hurt. She helped him sit up. Why do they want you so badly? Gray looked at the smoking ruin of the null beast. Because I wasn't supposed to survive the purge. Valari frowned. The purge? He leaned back against the wall, breathing hard. After the last Earth war, we surrendered to negotiate. Peace. The deal was simple. They'd stop the attacks, and in return, we'd stop building weapons. But they lied. He nodded. The day we signed the treaty, They hit our labs. Killed off the Terran Vanguard unit, my unit. Valera's voice softened. You were one of them. He met her gaze. I was the prototype. Stronger, faster, trained to fight until I couldn't breathe. But you weren't just a soldier, she said, remembering the books in his cave, the plants he'd cared for, the fire he always built with care. No, he said. I was human. Valari looked down at her own hands. They hurt you, branded you. Gray pulled his shirt aside. On his shoulder, a scar burned deep. Not just a brand, a serial code. A Mex one. Valari swallowed. They made you a secret weapon, then tried to erase you. Gray looked at her with tired eyes. They almost did. She touched the edge of the mark. But you're still here. A moment passed. Then the scanner beeped again. She checked her breath. Caught new signal. Bigger in orbit. Valari looked at Gray. Something else just arrived. Gray stood slowly, loading a fresh cell into his rifle. They're sending something worse. The wind changed. Gray smelled it before the scanners picked it up he had sent. Sharp and bitter, like metal burning inside air. Valari looked at him as they stepped outside the cave. The morning light had dimmed again. Clouds formed fast. Not natural clouds, thick, shaped like coiled beasts twisting above the forest. They're here, she said, voice barely above a whisper. Gray nodded. And they're hiding behind the sky. He knelt and ran his hand over the soil, drawing quick lines in the dirt. Valari watched. What are you doing? Setting the kill zone, he said calmly. If they want to hunt, I'll make them bleed for every inch. She swallowed hard. You've done this before? Too many times, he said, but never alone until now. Valera's eyes drifted upward. The scanner beeped again. A new symbol flash, dark triangle, no ID, no faction code. What does that mean? She asked. Gray frowned. Predator. Class? But no registered origin? You mean ... it's rogue? No, he said grimly. I mean it was built off the books. This thing wasn't meant to exist. It moved fast. Valari followed Gray's lead, placing traps. High-frequency spikes in trees, and mines under moss, signal jammers disguised as rocks. The entire valley became a web of hidden defenses, but deep inside, Valari knew it wouldn't be enough. Why? Are they risking so much for one man? She asked. Gray paused, loading a short-range disruptor into a rock crevice. Because I'm not just a man, she waited. He finally said it. I'm the last successful Terran ghost. Valari's breath hitched. She had heard whispers in the archives. Rumors of a human unit that could move through battlefields unseen, kill without sound, disappear without trace, but it was believed none had survived the Great Purge, they thought. We were too dangerous, Gray said. So they killed the program. And when that wasn't enough, they tried to erase the bloodline. Valari shook her head. But why now? I sent a predator ship after you after all these years. Gray narrowed his eyes. Because I activated a beacon when I saved you. They thought I was gone, but I left a fingerprint on their system. You saved me, she whispered, and that's what exposed you. Gray didn't answer. He just handed her a pulse blade and looked toward the tree line. Valari turned on. Froze. Something was walking through the mist, slow, silent, massive. Not a drone. Not a beast. It moved like a shadow with weight. It didn't step, it slid, gliding between trees. Black armor catching little light as if the forest itself bent away from it. Her breath caught in her throat. What is that? Gray stared at it. The thing they use when all else fails. Creature turned. It had no face, just a smooth metal mask with a glowing red slit across the front. Then it spoke not with a voice, but directly into their minds, return the Terran ghost and you may live. Valari winced at the pain in her. Ska, it's in my head. Gray grabbed her arm and pulled her behind a fallen log. No use hiding, he said. It sees by thought, not heat. Valera's hands trembled on the pulse blade. Then how do we beat something that knows what we're thinking? Gray's voice turned colder. By thinking like humans. pulled a small spike from his belt, barely bigger than a pen, and jabbed it into his neck. His eyes dilated, his pulse slowed. "What did you just do?" Valari asked. "Cognitive blur serum," he said. "It breaks brainwave patterns. It makes me unreadable for 10 minutes. She stared. "That's why they fear you." He stood, rifle raised. "No," he said. "They fear what happens when a human fights like a ghost." Gray sprinted into the trees. The predator turned and followed. Valari ducked, heart pounding. Then she heard it explosions, sharp and scattered. "Traps going off?" Screamed, electronic and real. She watched the scanner. One red dot vanished. Then another. But the predator was still moving. The trees caught fire. Something roared louder than thunder, and then Gray's voice cut through her. "Come, Valari, run west. Now." She didn't think. She moved. Branches tore at her arms. The mist grew thicker. The scanner shorted out. She was blind. Then she tripped. She crashed to the ground, hard face down. Dirt in her mouth. When she rolled over, she saw it. The predator loomed above her. It had ignored Gray. It had hunted her. Valari reached for her blade. Too late, it raised. A metal spear. Her heart stopped. Then cracked. The predator's chest exploded outward. Gray stood behind it. Panting, holding a scorched pulse cannon. The beast fell forward. Dead. Valari gasped. Tears in her eyes. Gray dropped the cannon. "Told you," he said, breathing hard. "Humans kill worse." The predator's corpse steamed in the cold morning light. Valari sat on the ground, legs shaking, staring at its body. Metal and flesh mixed together in ways that should never exist. The machine grown like an animal, built to kill and adapt. And Gray had destroyed it with a single burning shot. But he didn't look proud. He looked tired. Gray leaned against a tree, wiping blood from his lip. His knuckles were raw. His eyes bloodshot. Letty came in short bursts. Valari crawled. To him, "You're hurt." He shook his head slowly. "Doesn't matter. You saved me." Again, he didn't answer. Then the scanner beeped. One soft chime. Just one. A green light. Valari frowned. "That's new." Gray's head snapped toward it. He reached for the device, stared at the screen. "No," he muttered. "What is it?" she asked. He turned to her slowly. "That wasn't a predator. That was a test." Before she could speak, the scanner flashed bright blue light, covering the screen. A voice rang out. "Calm, robotic, human. DNA match confirmed. Starblood protocol initiated." Valari froze. What did it say? Gray's jaw clenched. His hands trembled. No, I locked that program. Right. He ripped the scanner open, smashed the chip, but it was too late above them. The cloud shifted. Something massive moved behind them in orbit. Valari looked up, eyes wide. "Is that a ship?" Gray's voice was low. "No, that's a vault." Turned to him. "What do you mean?" He stepped back, slowly. The Starblood program was Earth's final weapon, a hidden project. We ever lost the war, it would activate only if one of us survived long enough. And bled near enemy tech. She blinked. That's what happened. Gray nodded, his voice haunted. The Predator's sensors. My blood. The mind strike. It tripped the beacon. Suddenly the sky lit up, a beam of light thick as a mountain pierced. Through the clouds and struck the ground miles away. The entire forest shook. Birds scattered, trees bent from the wind blast. Then another beam hit closer. Valari shouted over the rumble. "Gray, what is happening?" He looked at her with eyes that no longer looked tired but terrified. "They're waking up." "Who?" He stepped forward. "The buried." Valari gasped. "There are more of you. Not living ones," he said, "but war minds. Stored inside relic vaults, old commanders, weapons, ship blueprints, AI networks that remember how Earth burned, and how to make others burn too. She stared at him. They're all waking up because of you. He looked down at his hands. No, he said, because of us. The earth trembled again. Valari looked behind them. The place where the predator fell was no longer a body. It was melting, dissolving into a black pool of liquid metal. Something inside it pulsed red. Valari backed away. What is that? A virus, Gray said. It's broadcasting coordinates. They know we triggered Starblood. Oh. Send everything now. Not just drones, not just hunters. Empires. Then we need to run. Gray shook his head. There's no running anymore. He pulled a small silver disc from his pocket flat. Smooth. Unmarked. Valari frowned. What is that? He looked at her. A key. One I swore I'd never use. He pressed it against his arm. It sank beneath the skin with a soft hiss. His veins lit up, just for a moment, blue then gold. She gasped. What did you do? I sent the final signal, he said. The vaults will open now. Above them, something cracked in the sky. A ring of lights formed in orbit. Then, one by one, they dropped. Silver pods, sleek like arrows, fell toward the planet. Dozens. Hundreds. They're ships, Valari whispered. Gray nodded. Human war shells. Sleeper vessels. He buried them deep across colonies after Earth. Fell. They've waited 200 years to wake up. Valari clutched his arm. Will they follow you? He nodded. They will follow anyone with Terran ghost blood. She stared. You're not just human. He looked into her eyes. No. He said, I'm the memory they failed to erase. Then the first war shell hit the ground. It didn't explode. It opened. Smoke poured out. Metal plates shifted. A human-shaped figure stepped forward, tall, armored, glowing with old light. It didn't speak. It just turned to Gray and saluted. V-L-A-R-I, whispered Gray. What did you just call down? He turned toward the horizon, where more pods were falling. Justice, he said. The sky rained steel. Pods fell like stars, slicing through clouds, landing with thunder across the valley. The ground shook beneath each impact. Dust rose in waves. Trees snapped. Animals fled. And above all, the strange silence of fate returning filled the air. Valari stood beside Gray on the ridge, her pulse pounding, eyes wide as silver war shells opened one by one. From each emerged a silent soldier, not men, not machines, but something in between. Terran sentinels, forgotten by history, designed for extinction, turned by accident, or maybe by hope. Valari whispered there. Human. Gray shook his head slowly. Not exactly their memory-wrapped war forms. Part AI, part gene clone. It's all loyal to the last human. Protocol. She looked at him, uncertain. Will they obey you? Gray stared down the hillside, where the first squad had formed a triangle around him. They will obey if I lead. A blue light blinked in the chest of the lead sentinel. It scanned Gray's face. Terran Ghost verified. Unit 01 requests mission parameters. Valari stepped forward. Wait, we don't have to fight, do we? We just need to survive. Gray said nothing. She turned to him, grabbing his hand. This doesn't have to be another war. Gray's eyes softened, but just a little. I didn't wake them to start a war, he said. I woke them to end the one they started centuries ago. Behind them, more sentinels marched into place. Weapons formed from nothing, liquid metal solidifying in their hands. Shields unfolded from their backs like wings. The sky darkened again, but this time, not with human tech. Enemy ships, massive, cold, black. The Zovari Empire had arrived. One mothership hovered in the sky like a sun-swallowing god. It projected a voice across the land. You violated the code. You woke the dead. You will burn. Valera's heart pounded. They're going to attack. Gray looked at her. No, not yet. He stepped forward. Alone, the sentinels watched. Silently as he stood beneath the enemy's shadow, then he spoke. Not loud, but clear. You tried to erase us. You hunted our last. But you forgot one thing humans don't forget. We don't die easy. He raised his arm, and the war plate embedded in his skin flared gold. Starblood, command, fire. The sentinels moved, not with sound, not with shout, but with precision. They didn't charge. They vanished, beamed from the ground in white. Columns of plasma launched into the sky at impossible speed. Straight into the enemy fleet. Valari shielded her eyes. "What are they doing?" Gray whispered, finishing what they started. In orbit, the sentinels cut through holes like blades through cloth. Zovari fighters exploded. Battleships split open. Motherships howled with AI warnings. But nothing stopped them. The humans had returned. But not as men, as wrath. Valari stared at the sky as pieces of enemy ships fell in flames, streaking across the horizon like dying gods. And in the center of it, all Gray stood, still and silent, not smiling, not angry, just steady. Minutes passed, then the sky cleared. Only one ship remained, damaged, hovering. The mothership opened. "Ah! You should not exist." "What are you?" Gray answered calmly, the wish she made. Valari looked up at him, tears in her eyes. "You heard me," she whispered. He nodded. "I wasn't meant to, but I did." The mothership turned and fled. The forest was quiet again. Valari dropped to her knees, overwhelmed. She whispered, "It's over." Gray turned to her, knelt beside her, and placed a hand on her shoulder. "No," he said. "It's just begun." Hours later, the cave was gone, replaced by campfires in quiet construction. Sentinel units had begun repairing old relay stations. Satellite link blinked to Life Earth archives found. Reconnect attempt. Active. VALAR. I sat near the edge of the new camp, watching Gray from a distance. He stood with a younger sentinel, teaching it how to hold a rifle not as a weapon, but with respect. She smiled. When he returned, she stood. "Where will you go now?" she asked. He looked at the stars. "Wherever they need light." She took a deep breath. "And me?" He raised an eyebrow. "What about you?" She reached into her jacket and pulled out a small device. It hummed. "A translator beacon." I was a historian once. I think I'd like to tell the story right this time. Gray smiled for the first time. "Then tell them everything." She nodded. "I will. We'll start with this. How I was caught in a trap, wished on a star." "And how?" A ghost answered.